Alright, if you're watching this video, I'm going to assume that you want to find the best fats to eat. You want to eat lipids that will make you as healthy and good looking as possible. So I'm going to go over the best fats that you can possibly eat and the food sources to find them in. But first I have to I'm going to describe the structure of the various fats that you can find in your food sources. With the main focus being on the fats that will be in the plant sources that I'm going to recommend, and also the aquatic like algae or animal sources that will have omega-3 like fish oil. So most of the lipids that you'll consume will be around 18 carbons long. And with this diagram, with this model, the color red represents oxygen. So at this tip, there's an oxygen, and at this tip, another oxygen. But I'm not showing you the hydrogens because they're so numerous. And then black and gray represent carbon. Normally it's just black, but I don't have a whole lot of black. So this represents a carbon double bonded to an oxygen. Okay, this is, two carbons double bonded to each other with hydrogens not shown. So this would have 4 hydrogens. So, first type of fatty acid would be a saturated fatty acid. And most of the fatty acids will be around 18 carbons long. What I mean by around is you're not going to eat fatty acids that are 100 carbons long or 2 carbons. So, when you have a saturated fatty acid, or any fatty acid, the single bonded carbons can move around, but the molecule tends to be more straight because this straight configuration, it tends to be more stable. It takes less energy for this molecule to be in this form than, twisted. Okay, next we have the monounsaturated fatty acid. And the common one that you'd be eating would be oleic acid or omega-9. This will have a double bond starting at the 9th carbon from this end. So, okay, and this double bond will make this hydrocarbon bent, and it's more stable, normal configuration. Now, this is what's called a cis formation, and the double bond is like this. And it's natural. You always have a natural cis formation. But if I were to change this double bond slightly, like this is a trans formation. Goes like that. That's not natural. That would make this a trans fat. So this, you're not going to naturally eat trans fats. Okay, that would be, you have to eat something hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated. You want to avoid hydrogenation. Okay, next we have omega-6, and it's still 18 carbons long, so we'll count to the 6th carbon. Okay, so we have a double bond at carbon 6 and carbon 9. I mean, between carbon 6 and 7, and between 9 and 10. Just remember, the omega oils are named after the first double bond that you find. So the first one from this carbon here is at carbon 6. This is omega 6. And I'm pretty sure all of the omega oils have double bond at carbon 9. Now, there's an omega-6 that is found in animal fats that I'm not going to show, but it actually has 4 double bonds. And I believe it's 20 carbons long. So it's called arachidonic acid. And I don't recommend animal fats in general, but you'd find this in fish oil. Okay, my exception would be certain animal fats from certain aquatic animals that have access to algae. So in fish oils you might find some arachidonic acid. But this is called linoleic acid. It's common in seeds and nuts, and find it in olive oil. You know, just plants. Then there's omega-3. Okay, and this will be the alpha linolenic acid form of omega-3. The 3rd carbon, we have a double bond. Then 6 and 9. 18 carbons long. Then there's another form of omega-3 called, what's it called? EPA, that has 5 double bonds. And it's actually 20 carbons long. EPA. Then there's DHA. DHA is 22 carbons long and has 6 double bonds. So some of the things you're looking for in your oils are lots of double bonds. If you have more double bonds, then your oil will tend to be more bent, and the temperature at which it's solid will be much lower, and so it'll tend not to stick to other fats in your bloodstream. So the idea is more double bonds will clog your arteries less. Okay, and then if you could have a molecule that's shorter, then nonpolar molecules, they attract other nonpolar molecules with the London force, and shorter nonpolar segments, they'll have, these shorter molecules will have less London force attracting them. So if you think of ethane, it's normally a gas at room temperature. And if you think of a plastic that has really long molecules, that's solid. So shorter means less likely to clog your arteries because it's not going to solidify as easily. Then another good idea is to have molecules that are unoxidized. Okay, these double bonds can be broken and oxidized. And some contributors to this are heat, light, oxygen exposure, and the time during which it has exposure to these. So if you leave a polyunsaturated fatty acid out and exposed to the air, and you leave it in a warm environment, in a sunny environment, it's going to oxidize very quickly. And many studies have said that oxidation is unhealthy. Okay, some oxidation is unavoidable, but it's a good idea to reduce it. And then you also want to watch your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. Okay, the omega-6, I showed the common one would be linoleic acid, and then the omega-3, the common one is alpha linolenic acid, but then there's some healthier ones called EPA and DHA, and those come from algae and animals that eat algae. So, like wild grown fish or krill. So, say this represents this pile is your omega-3, this pile is your omega-6. You want to have a ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 of 1 to 2 or 1 to 4. Different sources vary, but it tends to be in that range, like 1 to 2, 1 to 4. So let's just say 1 to 3. But you can have more omega-3, that's fine. Just don't have too much omega-6. However, you need some omega-6. It's necessary for you to live. Alright, now we'll go over omega-3. The best oil to have is DHA. Your body needs DHA, but it can make DHA from other omega-3s. It's not the most efficient at doing that, but the best form of omega-3 is DHA, even though your body can make it from EPA or ALA. It's important for the function of your brain. And then the second best would be EPA. And your body can modify this with an enzyme, just one step, and then it can become DHA. And EPA and DHA, like I said, they come from algae. So fish oil is a classic example. The fish get it from algae. Some problems with the EPA and DHA, and they tend to come together. Some problems are the sources of it tend to give you oxidized oils, and it's also, oxidation is likely, and then it could also taste bad if you've ever tasted fish oil. So I think it's a good idea to have fish oil pills. You get past the bad taste. And just look at your fish oil pills, and it's a good idea to have your EPA and DHA total fairly high with respect to the other fats in your oil. And then fish oil could be contaminated. Fish are often associated with mercury poisoning, so just check to make sure that the contaminants are filtered out. And I haven't found any explanation on this, but many sources recommend about 1 gram a day of DHA. That might include EPA. But I haven't found any good studies on that where the subjects were given plenty of flax oil or plenty of omega-3 in other forms, and then also given DHA in one group and minimal DHA in the other group. Haven't found that. And then ALA. The benefits of ALA are it's easier to get. It's easier to get it in an unoxidized form or relatively unoxidized. I recommend ALA for your main fat consumption. If you're like me, you need a lot of calories, so you might end up having a lot of fat. And I recommend that fat is mostly in the form of flax oil, because flax oil is very high in ALA. And if your primary fat is flax oil, then you're going to have no problem with the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. Here's some flax seeds. And to get the benefit from them, of course you want to keep them raw. And any highly unsaturated oil, or even monounsaturated oils, it's a good idea to keep them away from heat and light. Okay, I store this in a freezer. Okay, they do expire, they do go bad. You're going to want to grind your flax seeds. So you might use a coffee grinder or a poppy seed grinder or something. But I recommend a burr grinder. So it'll say my hands are burrs. All the seeds will have to go in between these burrs and they'll get ground evenly and finely. And then there's flax oil. Now, with any oil, it should be cold pressed. The other option would be having oil that was extracted with hexane, and that's not a good option because it might have some hexane left in it and it might be exposed to heat. And cold pressed flax oil. When I buy these, say I buy 3 of them, I'll put 2 in a freezer and 1 in a refrigerator. Okay, and then you might want to have some avocados. You know, they have other benefits other than their oils. And you know, when your oil is in the avocado, it's less likely to get oxidized. Okay, you know, the natural form hasn't had as much exposure to oxidation. And of course, there are other benefits to flax seeds. Make sure you grind them. And make sure once you grind them, you don't eat them for very long. You want to have it fairly fresh. Okay, you might keep it in your refrigerator for a week, you know, your ground flax seeds. But flax seeds have other benefits. I've heard about lignans. They're a type of phytoestrogen, but they're not as strong as other phytoestrogens in terms of their pseudoestrogenic effect. And these lignans, I've heard about their ability to fight prostate and breast cancer. I mean, there's just all kinds of benefits to flax seeds. But flax seeds do contain cyanogenic glycosides, which will release some hydrogen cyanide into your body. Okay, but your body can tolerate a little bit of hydrogen cyanide. The way you remove hydrogen cyanide from a food is you soak it in water, and then you could heat it up a little bit. It has a fairly low boiling point, this hydrogen cyanide. So, I don't know. I mean, a couple tablespoons of flaxseed meal a day shouldn't hurt you. And when you have flax oil, it's not going to have the hydrogen cyanide. So I hope this helps. I hope you can choose the best oils to be the healthiest and best looking and live the longest. This is David from VidSmoFit, and science bless you.